Oh. Well, good morning and welcome to another week on my allotment. And we've had some pretty miserable wet and windy weather in the last couple of weeks, but I think today's the worst. I have a confession to make. Before I switch the camera on, I've been having a little lie down on here, and I just shut my eyes and I listen to the crackle of the fire, you know, the lamp's off, and I just love it. And of course, any reasonable minded person might say, why on earth do you get out of bed early in the morning to come up here and lie down? What a ridiculous notion. Oh, I have a kettle boiling. I've got two kettles on there at the moment because the green one at the back is normally on the gas stove, and I only use the gas when I really have to. So that kettle's been sat on there for a little while, and I emptied it out the other day and there was just a little bit of mould in the water, so I thought, I don't want the heebie-jeebies, so I thought I'd put some water in that and boil it and have a rolling boil on it for a while just to clean it out. Anyway, you don't need to know that, do you? So yeah, welcome to the plot. What have I been doing this week? Well, this week the weather's been foul, and we're meant to be having our annual bonfire here today, and we haven't advertised it because England, where this allotment is, England's in lockdown, and although some of us aren't interested, some are, so we don't want to upset anybody, but we're supposed to be having it today, and it is absolutely lashing it down out there. But I was up here Friday and John was here, and it was a glorious day. We had some really beautiful, dry, sunny weather. There was very little wind. So I said to him, look, how about if we just get rid of it all, burn it all now? So we did. So we've rather ruined the opportunity to have a social event today, but actually the main thing is to get rid of all the detritus off the different plots. So that's what we did. What else have I been up to? Well, I've had the opportunity to get around the pond. I've dug over all the ground around the pond, taken out all the grass, which will obviously come back because of the couch grass roots, but yeah, I've had a good tidy up round there. And I've also had a really good clear out round the blackberry, the line of blackberries down the other end of the plot. In my last video I showed you that, pardon me, I put some chippings down on the far side of it. Well, this time I've created a border. I'll show you later if it stops raining. So I have been busy on the plot, and I'm really, really pleased to report that right now I am like an island in a very boggy sea. All the ground around me, out the back here, coming over from the van as I walk through the site, my boots are squelching in the mud. But once you arrive at my site, all my paths are firm. Obviously a lot of them are slabs, so they would be, but yeah, all that year-long project to get the ground, all the chippings, etc, etc. If you've been with me throughout, you'll have known what I've been doing, and I'm now reaping the rewards. I can walk all over my plot and the ground is firm underneath. Even the beds that I've raised, there is no standing water right now, and the pipe, the culvert that I dug last weekend to take the water off my neighbour's plot and run it away, that is working. So that ground has dried up, albeit it's still squelchy because everywhere is. So yeah, oh yeah, look at that kettle. That kettle's boiling. So yeah, very happy with the way things are, and I received a gift recently from Terry, my mate on the other plot over there, and I cannot begin to tell you how happy that has made me. So without further ado, if you haven't guessed what it is, I will show you. That little green gadget is whistling its little heart out. I cannot tell you how chuffed I am with that wonderful little gift. Thank you very much, Terry. You've made an old man very happy. Gosh, that's going for it. Well, I mentioned this in the last video, but this is the major bed of leeks, and they could not look worse. They're all yellowing. Yeah, they look awful. So I'm going to save those that look redeemable, and the rest are being chopped up on the compost. I do have 2 other beds, so it's no great loss. Well, I've been at it over an hour, just had to shelter from a heavy rain shower. But that's looking a lot neater, and a lot of them really are rotten. However, it is not all bad news. Actually, quite a number of them were fine, so topped and tailed them, and hopefully Cheryl can freeze those and nothing there is lost. Well, I'm worn out looking at it, but job done, and as many leeks as I can save have been.
Terry will be disappointed. He's the fire engineer.
Yes, yeah, that's true. So here's the timber that I've managed to collect. And there's my blunt saw. The reason my saw is so blunt is because all this plastic roofing that I've got, and I got quite a lot for other people, was all cut up with that saw, which is not good for a saw blade. So when I can, I will get a new saw. So there's my very homely shed that is absolutely roasting. But moving back out here, and I have to say it isn't cold. When I drove in this morning about 7:15, it was 11 degrees, the thermometer in the van. So a bit of crow action going on. Don't know what they're up to. But the pond is all a lot neater now, all dug over and put to bed for the winter. And every time I walk past it, something moves in the water, which is always lovely to see. I've got a few leeks, still a few leeks left despite having to dig out the old bed. And there's some garlic there. Still got a few cabbages for coleslaw. Strawberry beds are all looking neat. These troughs are full of daffodils for the spring. This is a bed that just needs a bit of work today. I had a few excess strawberries that went in there and more leeks, but I need to weed around the leeks. Got some California poppies there that need to come out. And beetroot over there, the Choggia beetroot. I'm not actually that keen on it, if I'm honest. So it was a trial, and I won't grow it again. We'll stick to Bolt Hardy. The Brussels sprouts, they don't look like they do in the book. They always look a bit grotty and messy, but once you peel them back, they're fine, and they do taste good. There's the old leek bed, and that bed's got all year round cauliflower in it. Lots of leaf, but very little curd. But I'm going to leave them and see what happens. So, our chaparral. Compost heaps are all in full flow, as are the leaf mould bed there, which is full, and I'm having to put the excess in that bed there. These frames were put up because I shan't be growing peas on those next year, so they've been put up as a frame for the josterberry and more the blackberry bushes. The wood that was on here was all burnt, so this has got to be dug over. I'm not sure I'll bother with it today because the ground is just too heavy. The onions are in here, And then here's what I did the other day. I got some more timbers to edge it, and then although it looks very similar to the soil, it isn't soil, it's chippings. So that's all been cardboarded and chipped, and so it should be a lot easier to pick these blackberries next year, he says. So if I can swing you round, actually there's a bit of blue sky up there. So yeah, it's all looking fairly good, and there is no standing water. If you look at my videos from this time last year, I was underwater. So I am so pleased with all that hard work. The canal down the side there, the ditch around there, running off my neighbour's plot, it's all working a treat. And as I stand here now, it's firm underfoot. Could not be happier. Forgot on the little tour I did then, one other thing. I created this windbreak, which may look a little odd, but the wind is coming onto my plot from beyond there, and it howls through this gap. And you know, it's not 100% waterproof under here because rain comes in sideways, but the theory is, as I stand here, that will just break up the wind coming in through that gap and create a bit more of a shelter. Time will tell. Anyway, I had the wood. It was all, you know, I haven't had to create that, it was already in that shape. A couple of little bits of niff-naff for you, or trivia, and they relate to Mary, Queen of Scots. And she was around at the time that golf was invented in Scotland, if you didn't already know that. And when she would whack the balls, she would have an officer cadet that attended her, and she would send the officer cadet to get the ball back for her. And the French, she spoke French, and the French for cadet is cadet. And so she said cadet, and send him away as a queen can. And that's where the word caddy comes from the French for cadet, which is, you know, mildly interesting. Another little bit of trivia that is associated with Mary, Queen of Scots, was that she had French maids, and whenever she was ill, she would like to eat a new preserve that had arrived, made from oranges and their peel. And the French maids would go down to the cooks and say, "Ma'am est malade," "Ma'am is not well." And the cooks soon learned that this little pot of orange preserve was what they wanted, you know, vitamin C and so on. So whenever she was unwell, she would have some of this new preserve, and they'd go down and say, "Ma'am est malade," and the cooks and the servants started to call it that, and that name became marmalade, and that's where that comes from. I find that quite interesting. And another little story, this one actually is about me. I thought I'd tell you a funny little story, something rather silly I did. Many years ago, when I was an army diver, I was posted to Northern Ireland, and I was working from Mazarine Barracks. And at the back of the barracks was a stretch of water called 6 Mile Water that went out into Loch Ney. And out on Loch Ney was an old concrete jetty that I think was an old World War II torpedo testing jetty. And what we would do was, from within the dock in the barracks, we would go underwater, stay underwater, and go on a compass bearing up this very straight piece of river, and it would go out into the loch. And if we stayed on the correct compass bearing, eventually we'd come to the pier footings of the jetty, and we'd come up, and it was a successful dive. Well, I did that many times, but on one particular dive, you have to understand the water was black. It was like diving in Bovril. So you had no visibility. You could put your hand in front of your face, you wouldn't see anything. So the compass had luminous dials on it so that you could see them. And as I was swimming along on the riverbed one day, I bumped into an obstacle, and you know, I felt around me, and it was a wire grating. And I thought, well, maybe it's some sort of pump inlet, or you know, protects an inlet into out of the river. I wasn't really sure what it was. I'd never come across it before. Anyway, I felt like that. Well, that's unusual. Off to the side, over the top. I thought, Christ, what have I swum into? I've swum into some sort of underwater grating. I'd swum into a Tesco trolley. You know, it took me a little while, but eventually I managed to work my way back out of it, and I realised what it was. Someone had chucked it in from the park, and it was on its side, and I'd managed to swim into it. So I had a little bit of a panic for a few seconds, and then realised what I'd done, and I was underwater laughing at my own stupidity. But I thought you might find that mildly interesting. Well, I did a lot of bridging in the Royal Engineers, and that's one of the ones I'm the least proud of. But it makes it safer to cross the ditch. Job done. Well, it's not stopping. It really is set in. So I'm going to call it a day. I haven't picked the produce yet. I need a gap in the rain to do that. But I'll call that it for the week. I think I'll probably go to a video every other weekend from now on, because I'm sure if you've got an allotment or a vegetable garden, you understand that this time of year there's not a lot going on. I'm having to get closer to the camera because the noise of the rain is so deafening. I shall see you in another week. And well, another 2 weeks, I've just said, haven't I? Yeah, we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. So thank you for watching. Thanks to all those who subscribed. I do appreciate those that have stuck with me, and all being well, I shall see you in a fortnight's time. Look after yourselves, and bye for now.